Well, this video is one of many that I'll be making in the forthcoming weeks. This one is the introduction, the summary, the outline of what I'm going to be talking about. Today I've come to Wiang Kum Kam Visitor Centre. This is the place that you can pick up a horse and cart and be taken around the ancient city. You can pay 300 baht. They'll take you to 9 temples that they've identified to be of beauty. They will point you at the temple. They will suggest to you that you can take your own photographs, and they will partake in a little bit of discussion about what they've got in a guidebook, but really there's not a lot of information given. Well, the tour through this building over here is done in several languages. You can select which language you want to have the audio played in.
In the year 1239, this story begins. It was in 1262 when he established the city of Chiang as the new headquarters of his administration. By 1281, he even conquered the great city of Palaeochannels or Lampu. Equal rights and fairness under the law, with his great intelligence, gracious benevolence toward the kingdom and subjects he ruled.
There are some lovely holograms of some existing bases of chedis, and then the structure then superimposed on that as a hologram. Very interesting. And there are lots of artifacts that you can see in there that have been picked up to demonstrate Wiang Kum Kam traded with other people. It traded out of the region. You've got the artifacts that were found in the ruins that I'll take you down and show you a little bit today, but as I say, I'm not going to show you a lot today. That's in a forthcoming video, but it's nice to see it here then before you then go on down into the city. This is Wat Jedi Liam, and it's on the bank of the Ping River over there, just beyond those palm trees. And incidentally, this fantastic chedi here is modelled on the Khmer styles, also seen out at Wat Chamadevi over in Lamphun. So the design is quite a unique design, with all of the square faces and the Buddha images standing in each of those little alcoves. In the books that I've been reading, since I went to a second-hand bookshop and found not only the Chronicles of Lanna, but also a fantastic little surprise book that I bought. I think it was less than 150 bahts, probably 100 baht or something like that. It was written by Garry Harbottle-Johnson. This guy wrote this book of passion. It was, you know, a book that was a love that he had for this subject, Wiang Kum Kam. Wiang Kum Kam is an ancient city in the north of Thailand, one of many Wiangs that existed back in the 1200s, and this one is pretty special because of King Meng Rai, who then, after founding this, stayed here for a while, moved his administration into Chiang Mai as we know it now, and founded that. So it's a path for that king from Haripunchai to Wiang Kum Kam to Chiang Mai that he made in the 1200s, and it's significant because it left a lasting impact. What I want to do is actually explain to you the structure of Wiang Kum Kam, the city. Well, right now I'm looking directly up to Chiang Mai city. So the high rise buildings there are some of the hotels in Chiang Klang Road, and the river Ping wanders down south of Chiang Mai, and on this curve here, an old course of the Ping at this point. I'm bringing you here to show you this point because I think it is quite significant. Having looked at Garry Harbottle's book, which was suggesting there be a water course that went over this way from the Ping, I then looked into a piece of work that was done by a lady at Chiang Mai University. Her name is Elisha Teo, and she did a fantastic paper that I'll leave a link below to, about the Palaeochannels, I think that's how you say it, and it was to review the previous works that had been done, the assumptions that had been made, and also referencing ancient texts to support some of her discussion. And it's very interesting. What she was proposing in her paper was indeed reinforcing this possibility that there was a channel that went across the top here, which then reinforced the belief that Wiang Kum Kam, this reinforced city, had a boundary of this water that went through on the north side of the city. So to support that, we can actually locally see in place this lovely plinth which says the former Mayor Ping, and this is locally known as the Ping Heng. So Heng meaning dry, the abandoned Ping. And in the old days, the Mayor Ping passed along the northern wall of Wiang Kum Kam, then turned south along the west side of the present Chiang-mai-Lampun road, then past Lampun on the east side. The Mayor Ping abandoned its old bed between 1558 and 1774 during a flood that inundated Wiang Kum Kam. It looks pretty insignificant. It's a small stream compared to the main Ping River. So stood at the point of the river here, we've got the road that passes Wat Chedi Liam, and then we've got this road that runs down here beside this channel. So Ping Heng, this waterway, is actually the north of the city. Now, Wiangs, if you didn't know this already, you probably do, is a term referring to a fortified city. Somewhere that has a ditch around it, somewhere that has a palisade fencing and would have had sharp spikes on the outside to keep away any intended intruder. And the inner area would have been offering protection, security for people who felt they were under attack. And therefore there was an inside the city, obviously, and an outside. There is evidence, there are maps showing where the east, the west and the south boundaries were. When you look at maps when you go around Wiang Kum Kam, the guide centre and that sort of thing, it doesn't really give you that feeling as to exactly where it is, because in the map it shows the Mahidol Road at the north, it shows you the Middle Ring Road at the south, and therefore you think it's the whole of that bit. In actual fact, the area, the Wiang Kum Kam area, was only 850 metres by 600 metres. It wasn't that big. And when you travel around here and see what was inside and what was out, it gives you then a perspective of, this is the fortified area, this is where things were protected and people ran to, this is the security that was offered by the Wiang. And you get this feeling of then there's this civilization outside. I've already mentioned the trip that you can do on the pony and cart, and that takes you to 9 sites just like this. I've talked about Garry Harbottle-Johnson. His book covered around about 30 sites throughout the entire Wiang Kum Kam area. And I want to talk to you about a dear friend on Facebook who runs a company here offering tours, and very informed tours, giving a lot of detail, and already on his site you can read a lot about his knowledge. A very knowledgeable guy, Frans Betgem. He runs a site called Chiangmai-alacarte and does trips in trishaws, in pony and cart, treks to the jungle. He does a lot of trips all over northern Thailand, and one of those is including the history of Wiang Kum Kam, King Meng Rai, on down to Haripanchai, Lampun, and also out to Lampang. He does a lot of tour information on his website, link below, and also when his tours are operated, you are informed about what's going on rather than just, you know, point at this and then, you know, make your mind up, take your photographs and go off and do your research after. So, yeah, a very, very valuable piece of work by Frans. Hello, Frans, and thank you for all the effort you put into making us aware of these sorts of things. Well, this huge foundation of a temple is one of the later temples excavated. It wasn't excavated until 2003/2005 and therefore isn't included in Garry Harbottle-Johnson's book. So the details of that excavation aren't fully understood at the same level of detail. But you can see here that a lot of it was buried 2 meters below the ground. Well, Garry talks quite a lot about how the archaeology was done unprofessionally. The temple that's over here, which is called Wat E Kang, is actually, you know, half the size of this one, but they had a JCB in there. And Garry says that he was watching it in 2000/2002 when he was here, and they were actually excavating it in front of him. He was watching them doing it, and they were knocking bricks out of place. They were just, you know, just digging and piling up, digging and piling up, and they weren't taking care of what they were finding, he felt. And their priority, apparently, the contractor to dig out this temple, was to do just that, to expose it. It wasn't to understand it. It wasn't to find out some information about the aging, the dating of that structure, or you know, something to give us the warm feeling like you would get on Time Team, where they do the you know, the alluvial deposits and you know, dating through the layers that you can go through in the ground to find something to give it a you know, some objective marker that you could say, yes, this was 1200, this was 14, 15, 16, and so on. So that, he was saying, throughout his book, was lost because of their approach to archaeology. The fine arts department of Chiang Mai and of Thailand apparently approached it early on in a heavy-handed way. Now, that's a huge stupa, chedi, sticking out of the ground. It's not just a pile of bricks in the corner, it is actually quite obvious, and you cannot mistake it to be part of a temple building. Now, what's quite amazing about this place is the dichotomy. That's a big word. Hope I'm using it in the right context. People who live in Chiang Mai and northern Thailand from a foreign country are familiar with how much Thai people, especially those in Chiang Mai with Chiang Mai heritage, are keen to maintain their culture. How they're keen, very keen, to maintain the history, the practices, the beliefs, all of their lifestyle in a northern cultural way. So how is it that this area surrounding and including within Wiang Kum Kam was allowed until the early 1950s, when they had a photograph taken of it from the air, but then up until the 1980s to be built on, to be developed? There's a housing estate over there, for goodness sake, and there's factories and shops and other, you know, there's restaurants and all sorts of things built over the top, let alone roads. And therefore, how was it left to become so disrespected? I use that word pertinently because, after all, just building over the top of an ancient temple is disrespectful, surely. But that's what's happened here. And a lot of what we see today in Wiang Kum Kam is just part of the story. Garry Harbottle-Johnson actually made a diagram of one of the temples that I'll show you in another video. You know, he's got the actual Vihan, and he's got the Chedi, and then he's got an Ubasot, and then halfway through the Ubasot there's a line, and that's where the road is, that they have just rode roughshod across the whole environment. And that, to me, is crazy. And it doesn't sit well with the understanding I have, and many people watching this will have, about how Thai people love their culture, and Northern Thai people love Lanna culture. So yeah, it will actually raise a question for you as to how recent their love has been, or what is it they pick and choose to love. They certainly don't love this place, otherwise they'd have looked after it earlier. I mentioned Wiang as in a fortified battlement, if you like, a ditch with obviously water in it, and also the palisade fencing around the top, so to keep the invaders out. Well, because of the warring that went on across the planet, it seems, but especially here in northern Thailand, from the chronicles it's obvious that there were various invasions of places that affected the movement of people. People were, robbed of their wares, but also they were kidnapped and then put to work and put to live in other places as a form of slave. So, Wiangs were a place that people could run to for protection and hide from the invaders, and also it was a place for administration. Now, Wiang Kum Kam became a place for administration in the region because King Meng Rai had set it up here after he had set it up in Haripunchai, or Lampun as we know it today. And he didn't stay in Lampun very long. He wanted to move north, and he came here to Wiang Kum Kam, and all of the taxes and all of the payments to him here at Wiang Kum Kam, and people came to see him here. He stayed here for a short time, not very long, but what he did was established a huge Buddhist following. He established a huge commitment to Buddhism because of some of the things he believed in and many of his actions. Well, this tiny little building is very important and well respected and revered by Thai people, as is the tree, I believe. The spirit of King Meng Rai is believed to be here in this small building, and I'm not sure as to whether this is a replicant or it's part of the original, but the story I will tell you in another video about this particular temple, Wat Canton, is very important in the history of Wiang Kum Kam and also of King Meng Rai. For instance, the sapling, one of 5 that came from Sri Lanka, that apparently gave birth to this huge tree here. King Meng Rai actually developed a huge following, and through his practice of Buddhism, he developed what people assumed were powers. He actually made promises to do things, and if they came true, then he would make merit. He would do something at a location for somebody, for people, because of something coming true. And for instance, there are examples in the stories I've read about he would go off and capture, plunder, usurp the power of a particular place, maybe over in what we now know as Burma. Myanmar. And once he returned, because his foray into that area was successful, he then came back and did as he promised. He built a temple, he built a stupa, he had Buddhist images carved. And it's that story, the carving of these Buddha images, that actually brings the carver's name to this temple. Mr. Canton, he was quite well respected, for being a magnificent carpenter. And not only did he build these structures we see around here, but he made these magnificent statues. In times gone by, these places would have been visited by hundreds of people on a regular basis to celebrate and to perform rituals and to respect their loved ones, their past ones, and make merit and hope for the future, and build a community around Buddhism using these temples. So the 1980s they did some initial surveys, and then they found something more, and they found something more, and by the 2005 they stopped excavating. So they've not done any more, they're not doing any more to preserve what we see. This is it, this will be the future of this ruin. So here we have the old course of the Ping River, and on the right would be embankment, and on the left would be embankment as well. So this would be the ditch, and in here would be the city. Outside would be the surrounding town of Wiang Kum Kam. Well, now we've come along the entire length of the northern perimeter of the city of Wiang Kum Kam. The waterway there is the old Ping course that came across the top and turned then a right angle to go down the 106. So straight ahead of you, you can see traffic moving left to right, and that's the 106, the Lampun Road. You can see the remnants of pillars that would have held up a roof, and here would have been a place where a huge Buddha statue would have sat. And in the same area is another structure off to the other side. Now it's quite interesting, the facing of the door of this one is actually at right angles to the old one. So you can see the door facing here, well, that's facing south, and the structure here has the stairs, the entrance, facing east. I want to tell you how I feel, but I can't express it. These places really are quite special. When you come into them and you see the moss, the greenery, and the dog barking. I want to express to you how I feel when I come to these sorts of places, because I want you to share how I feel. I can only go so far to explaining what I feel and what I see. You need to come here for yourself and experience it. To understand it, maybe that you can see that the beauty actually attracts you, or that you think, oh, it's just another bit of brickwork. If you've just woken up after a very boring video and you thought, well, what the hell has Ali been rambling on about? There's another video coming out in the next few weeks. I'll be following up on some of the areas I've shown you today and giving you more detail, because I've been reading Garry Harbottle-Johnson's book, and it's fascinating. If I hadn't read that book or found Frans Betgem's website, chiangmai-alacarte, and understood the writings that have been done about these places I'm seeing, I couldn't talk with a bit of background. I feel shame that I did the video a couple of years ago and walking around going, ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah, look at this. It was a lot of rubbish when I look back at it, and I do really feel shame. But I hope you'd appreciate this one and look forward to the next one that I'll bring to you. I'll also be doing a video separately about the Ping, because linking all of this up, the Ping has a lot of history here, and after reading the document that I'll leave a link to below regarding the work done by Elisha, it's fascinating to follow through the course of these rivers and how they've changed over time. Man-made or natural maybe, but there has been a lot of change, and it's not necessarily that the Ping totally moved. Maybe a split in the Ping actually was re-diverted. Maybe there was a huge storm and all of that mud came over Wiang Kum Kam. Maybe it was just a mistake that happened in re-engineering. Who knows? Let's look at that. I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye bye. And the dog's still here.